Yeah, go ahead.
No, and because you've been through it, you really helped.
Yes.
You said they allow.
So it's well known that rap music is controlled by our government.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't like to hear that part of it, but if you really listen to a lot of the rap music that's being produced these days, it's always talking about something sexual, someone selling drugs, or someone doing drugs. No other culture sells music like that.
Yeah.
No other culture degrades itself in the music. So we're offended when, if you guys were to use the N-word, we would be offended. But it's all right for us to use it in rap music and say it to each other.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So now, what our government does know is the younger generation listens to it. This type of music sells. So who's buying this type of music? It's our kids. So our kids are doing what they hear in these rap songs. And now they're being affected because what the rappers is not telling them, we just rapping about it. We ain't actually taking these pills. We're not actually popping these pills. You know what I mean? And you got our children that's popping these pills, and actually they're dying.
Yeah.
So the new pill out there now it's a blue fentanyl pill. They're smoking it on, they're putting it on the foil and they're smoking it off the foil.
Off of oil?
Foil.
Oh, foil.
Aluminum foil. So if you go over north to the grocery store, you go over north to one of the dollar stores, you can't find foil in the aisle no more. They have to sell the foil from behind the counter because people are stealing it.
Really?
That's when you know something has become bad. When you can't go to the counter in the store and buy it where it normally sits. No.
Yeah.
It's been stolen at a real high rate. So if you see, especially like at the bus stops and stuff like that, you will have, people will be sitting out there with a thing of foil and they'll be smoking off of it. And really, they're killing our kids right now for $5 because that's all the pills cost. So yeah.
Wow.
So what is fentanyl? Fentanyl is an opioid used pain medication, and together with other medication for anesthesia. Fentanyl is synthetic or man-made opioid. There are prescriptions given for fentanyl, including Drastigens. This is a transdermal patch and substance, a spray that goes under the tongue, among others. It occasionally used for surgery or anesthesia. So basically, they use fentanyl in our hospitals. They've been using it for years, which most drugs known to man, they start off, they are being used in our hospitals. So when you really look at it, it's really no such thing as a bad drug. It's the people's motives who get a hold of the drugs. That's when the ill intention becomes about. So drugs in itself is not such thing as a bad one because most of the drugs that are known to man are used for some type of purpose in the hospital. So it says most of the fentanyl seen on the street is made in a clandestine lab and is used as an additive for other drugs such as heroin or counterfeit Oxycontin pills. Next, what I talk about is what is naloxone. So when is the first time you heard of naloxone or Narcan?
Prince.
Prince. So it's around the time Prince.
Well, about a week before he died, he overdosed, and they did an emergency landing. Maybe it was in Tennessee or something.
So how long has Prince been gone?
2016.
2016.
So
7 years.
He died in 2016. Believe it or not, naloxone, Narcan's been around since 1960.
Really? Wow.
Never
It
heard
was
the term.
so it was approved by the FDA in 1970. The reason why, as I told you before, they use fentanyl in the hospital, right? So if I'm a human being and I'm administering fentanyl to another human being, I may err, right? So if I err and give you too much fentanyl, what'll happen?
Oh.
You'll die. So we've never heard of the hospital being sued for a fentanyl overdose because they've always had something to counteract it if they accidentally gave out too much. So they've always had something to overturn opiates is what I'm getting at. And it's like, in my mind, it's like, why are we just now hearing about it? You know what I mean? Yes.
You know, if one drug company controls the manufacture and patents for Narcan,
Probably So everything, from my knowledge, a lot of things that have to get approved and stuff like that, all of it goes through the FDA.
Yeah, exactly.
So there again, you know, I believe, like a lot of things that we're gonna have questions about, a lot of it's gonna point back to our government.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna point back to our government.
So for 10 months, I've been advocating for free Narcan out in the community because the FDA just approved Narcan over the counter. Before it was a prescription, you had to go to a pharmacy.
Oh, it has been approved for over
The counter. So now anyone can get it. You don't have to go to a pharmacy.
But now you
And
but
some drug company, some manufacturing company is making a ton off of those sales.
so the same people that make Narcan, it was the same people that was making the vaccination. If you remember, so you guys probably wouldn't know this. I know it because I passed out a lot of Narcan. So it was a couple years, it was maybe like last year. It was a shortage on Narcan because they had stopped making Narcan to make the vaccination.
COVID-19.
Yeah. So they had so I don't know if they're the actual people that make the Narcan, but they have something to do with it.
Makes sense. They're a huge company.
Well, it's yeah.
Part of it's a production line that a company that was making vaccinations now has a bandwidth to mass produce another medication. So
it's like I said, it'll point back. If you look close enough, it's always going to point back to the government.
Narcan is that's what do you call it? A generic, not a generic.
So
brand name.
Brand name, right?
Yeah.
So it's a brand name. So I'm about to get into that. So what it says, what is naloxone? Naloxone, commonly known by the medication name Narcan, is a fast-acting opiate antagonist, meaning it counteracts the effects of an opioid on someone's brain when ingested. So basically, it's gonna knock the opioid off the receptor in your brain. Naloxone is a non-additive and harmless. If naloxone is given to someone who hasn't taken an opioid, it will have no effect on them whatsoever. Naloxone is used to reverse an opioid overdose. Naloxone kicks the opioid off the receptor in the brain, waking the person up it is given to. The only negative side effect of naloxone is that it puts an opiate-dependent person into withdrawal for a short period of time. So basically, the only side effect is you ain't high no more. That's the only side effect. So it's like, why wouldn't you give this away for free? I have no understanding for that.
Yeah. So Dr. D from the U of M is presenting at City Council tomorrow at Public Safety, and he's doing an opiate epidemic presentation. It's part 2. In part 1, Dr. D shared the first 72 hours after someone's been given Narcan. That's where most folks OD because they go through withdrawal. Everyone thinks they're okay. They're going through withdrawal. They go back and take fentanyl again.
Mm-hmm. They go back and get high. So basically what it does is it just knocks all the opiates out your body. So like, you know, about a half an hour after you have taken it and you come down off the Narcan, it's like you're just sober. And most people that use opiates, when they get sober, they go through a physical withdrawal. What he's talking about, in the physical withdrawal, it makes you feel like you're really, really sick. So, you know, your stomach be hurting. It'd be like, you know, you have a real bad nausea. And you go through some physical things. So what most people do is they go use more because they don't want to feel that way. You know what I mean?
So when we intervene and we give them Narcan, we have to stabilize them for that 72 hours, get them to access to treatment.
Yes.
What happens is 90% of people that have an opioid use disorder can't get into treatment. 90%. Officers bring them to the ER for a eval. If there's no psych beds, eventually they leave the ER. So they Humpty Dumpty until eventually they've overdosed. That's the reality of the opiate crisis. So we need a both and. We need the harm reduction, test kits, Narcan, but we also need psych beds to get these folks into treatment. Especially those 72 hours.
Psych beds.
Yeah. Chemical dependency treatment beds, yeah.
Yeah.
severe shortage of chemical dependency access to treatment. Sorry if I'm...
No, you all right?
After taking Narcan, you need 3 days, 72
The 72 hours is the critical window to get them medications that help with the withdrawals. There's special medications that can make the withdrawal symptoms, and they can give them what's called MAT. They can give them methadone, which is an opioid, and they taper them off of the methadone, and that way they don't have the withdrawal symptoms. But if you just give someone Narcan and revive them and leave them alone, there's a good chance they're going to go use again.
Most people are going to go back and use again. So basically what he's saying is you have, it takes about 72 hours for opioids to actually leave your system. You'll still have cravings after the 72 hours, but they're just not as severe as the first 72 hours. So basically what he's getting at is, if you're trying to get a person help, you need to get the help within them 72 hours. And you can get them on medical assisted treatment where you can get them to take either Subutex or you can get them to take methadone. And methadone, what it does, it helps with the cravings and the withdrawals. You know what I mean? So if you can get somebody on that, like within them first 72 hours, they stand a better chance to recover than you just giving them Narcan and just leaving them.
So methadone works for fentanyl.
So methadone works for opiates.
For any opiate.
Any opiates. So what you have to understand is, it doesn't make no difference what opiates you're using. If you're using them for a long period of time, they all have the same effect. Whether it's a Percocet, a Vicodin, whether it's fentanyl, whether it's carfentanil, or whether it's heroin. All of those are considered opiates. So, of course, the fentanyl and the heroin is a lot stronger than the Percocet. But if you keep taking those Percocets for over a long period of time, you're going to get the same results down the end of the line. And most of the time what happens is they start off on Percocets and end up on heroin because heroin's a cheaper drug. Percocets is a little bit more because you can only get them in pills. You see what I'm saying? So when you switch over, the heroin's going to last a little bit longer, but it's also going to be a little less expensive out your pocket. Then if you really want to get cheap about it, you'll end up with a fentanyl pill, which is only $5.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? So they're all opiates.
Yeah.
It's just like a rich high to a poor high, but they all going to eventually kill you especially if you get fentanyl in the wrong thing. So you can get fentanyl mixed with your heroin, you can get fentanyl mixed with your Percocets, which is really going on nowadays. But now they're just making up just straight fentanyl. So people are just using
Tell them about the
fentanyl.
connection between China and the cartels with the fentanyl.
I don't know too much about none of that.
So what's happening is China is mass producing the fentanyl and selling it to the cartels. And it comes up from the cartels. And now, in Afghanistan, the opioid sales, the farmers are having to switch to other crops. Everything's shifting away from natural opioids, from the poppy seed, to synthetic.
So a lot of the drugs now in general are synthetic.
Yeah.
Even with your marijuana, they're going towards a more synthetic marijuana than regular marijuana.
Well,
So
I remember with Prince, they showed a pill he took. It was labeled Vicodin, but it was really fentanyl.
So he probably got what another thing that you have, like when we get to reading, when we get to testing it, a lot of the pills that are being made today are people are pressing them in the streets. So like you can go get you a pill press machine and press your own pill. So I can stamp it Vicodin, but ain't no telling what I put in there.
Oh, jeez.
And that's what's happening to a lot of our kids.
3 kids in Mankato.
That's what's happening to a lot of the kids nowadays. They're buying these pills off of people on the streets and they don't know what's in those pills. Well, a lot of the people that selling the pills don't know what's in the pills. So,
How does cocaine fit into that?
So-
Because I know down in Uptown, a lot of kids use cocaine.
so a lot of people are. I can show you.
Do you guys mind moving down to those 2 chairs?
I can show you some fentanyl right now, and you might mistake it for cocaine because some of the fentanyl that I have seen in the past.
No, down. That way I don't have to, if you guys are sitting all together, I don't have to be, yeah. Come on down.
Everybody together. So some of the fentanyl that I have seen is it's like a white powdery substance like cocaine. So you've had a lot of people thought they was buying cocaine and OD because of these fentanyl. Yeah, so it's
So these dealers, they just have no care for human life at all.
I mean, it kind of seems that way. So once again,
If you kill all your customers,
so, and that's one thing I didn't understand. Like, why would you want to kill your customers? But this is my opinion. It's coming from a bigger source.
okay.
It's not actually coming because, like I said, some of the people that selling this stuff don't even know what they selling.
Yeah.
They didn't make it. They just bought it like this. Somebody gave me this, told me I can make this off of it. Next thing you know, you kill half your neighborhood.
Yeah, they're not.
You know what I mean?
They don't have a real business plan.
Hey, there you go.
They just don't do it.
So it does have a real business agenda because you have to understand when we're dealing with stuff like this, how is this stuff even getting over here? None of these drugs grow in America. Let's remember that first. From your cocaine to your heroin to your fentanyl, none of this stuff grows in America. All this stuff comes over our border.
Yeah.
So how is this getting in America? I mean, really think about that.
Did you know that the U.S. government admitted to putting drugs into South Central LA
They did.
during the Clinton administration? They acknowledged.
So how do you think? Like I just said, there's no cocaine. So there's no cocaine that grows in America, right? So how do you get tons of crack cocaine in a poor black community? None of them have boats, ships, planes. None of them probably never left their city. So how do you get all this over here?
Flying up here in planes.
I mean, who?
I know back in the day there was maybe you remember, Howard, the Christic Institute. They exposed there was a guns for drugs thing going on.
Yeah.
Flights
Yeah.
back and forth between the government.
It's always points back to
It was funding the Contras. down
Yeah, the Iran-Contra controversy. Yeah.
America. Jackson Brown did 2 concerts. Who was let's see, I think it was the Reagan administration was
Yeah.
and they sued the Christic Institute, and then Jackson Brown did 2 concerts for them.
Legal Defense, yeah.
For their defense, and then Reagan government went and sued them again.
It was during the 80s that the CIA was putting some of those drugs into South Central from the Iran-Contra.
It's when the crack epidemic hit.
Yeah, I've still got to make this connection though with the rap music, but
Oh man, so all you gotta do is listen to some of it.
yeah, I listened to it.
So you got it's a lot of different rap artists out there. Well, yeah, they got songs talking about popping pills, popping Molly.
To tell you the truth, I've been more concerned because of the kids that have been killed by guns.
Yeah, I mean that's in the rap music.
Yeah, I know.
So they're always shooting, killing somebody in rap music. They're always that's why you got the young women doing the dances and selling their bodies the way they do.
So Minneapolis PD did a presentation before City Council, and they did the crime stat analysis, and wherever there's fentanyl, you see gun violence. There's a strong correlation.
So guns have always been related to drugs.
Yeah.
It's not even just fentanyl, it's just drugs in general. So anytime you got drugs, you're talking about money. Anytime you're talking about money, you're talking about guns. You know what I mean? So it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about some signs of opiate overdoses. This is how you can tell if somebody's overdosing. Heavy nod that will not respond to any sort of stimulation, such as shaking, calling their name, or sternum rub. Sternum rub is when you take your knuckles like this and you rub somebody's chest. So if they're not responding to that 9 times out of 10, they have went into an overdose. A wheezing, snoring, or gargling sound, or not breathing at all, is a sign of an overdose. Clammy skin that has changed in tint, particularly around the extremities, such as hands and toes, and then the face, around the mouth and lips. People with a lighter skin tone tend to turn blue or purple around the hands and face and lips. People with a darker skin tone tend to turn gray in their hands, face, and lips. Another sign is not being able to find a pulse. So, in the event that you run across somebody who's having an overdose, first thing you want to do is call their name, shake them, try to get them to wake up. If they don't wake up, the next step you would do is call the police. Go down 911, call them, look here, I got somebody that's out, I think they're having an overdose, whoop-de-whoop. The third step is to be able to, you would try to get these people to somehow lay on their back. What you want to do is when you lay them on their back, if you can get them on their back, you want to check their mouth area to make sure they're not choking on anything, making sure, they're able to breathe. Like I told you before, when I was in my active addiction, I used to sell heroin to support my habit. So I had a period of time where I used to see people overdose all the time. And what I used to do, because I didn't have Narcan, I used to administer CPR. CPR, actually, I would initially blowing their mouth as hard as I could. Normally, when I would blow real hard, they would kind of like come back to life. So, like I said before at the beginning, what's actually going on when they're overdosing is they can't breathe. So it's our job to try to get some air back into their lungs. So CPR does work just as well pretty much as the naloxone. But we do live in the 23rd.
CPR, or are you talking about?
CPR, yes.
That's what I think CPR.
So you do that, but you also
blowing in the.
And you blow them out when you. So I understand. The day we live in now is people are not.
So I've been advocating that Narcan become part of the basic Red Cross CPR training.
Yes.
If we combine them,
everybody should get CPR trained. But what we do have in our CPR, we don't have one in this particular one. Let me see in here. So in these Narcan kits that we pass out, we have a breathing barrier. So basically, you can put this over someone's mouth.
Oh, I see.
And you can administer CPR correctly. Because a lot of people's not going to want to breathe in people's mouths. You understand? I do understand that. So we do try to give you something that will make it safer. You know what I mean? Because actually what is going on is they can't breathe. So if you can get air into this person, you can bring them back to life. So
yeah, it's funny because I was thinking that same thing. I was thinking,
right, I know.
If I'm wearing a mask,
if you're wearing a mask, or
I can do it.
He's not even if I'm wearing a mask. Like I'm not about to put my mouth in somebody else's mouth. Which we do understand that, so we do try to provide a face shield, so you can breathe. So really, this is what naloxone looks like. You can pass that to him; he can see it. So basically, you would take this whole vial, which is not really filled up to the brim. You can see it right there. So you would get 3 of them in the bag, and you would get 3 needles. So basically, what you would do is you would stick this in here like this, and this is a needle, so everybody knows the needle has a hole at the tip of the needle, and you put the needle at the end of the thing, and you just suck all the you see the fluid going in there. You suck it till you get it all out, and then it's ready to go. Just like that.
You have to worry about getting air bubbles in there.
It's intramuscular.
Really. You know what I mean? It's you can push it back up if you do see like a little space, but air bubbles not gonna kill no one. You have to understand this is not going in a person's veins. This is actually going into a person's muscles. Where's my phone?
Oh, that's yours.
Jesus on the main line.
So this is actually going into a person's muscles. You want to stick it either in the arm right here or the front part of the thigh. Like I said, if you can't get them on their back and they're laying like on their stomach, you can administer this into the buttocks. So what you would do, say this was the flesh, you would actually poke it in as much as possible and then just push it in. You can wait 90 seconds. 9 times out of 10, if you push one in, what you do after you push it in, you will begin to start on another bottle. You would open up another needle, and you would start, putting drawing it up. So you can keep giving it to them. After 90 seconds, you can give them another shot. They haven't woke up. If you have more naloxone, you can keep giving it to them. So this is the IV kind. They also have another kind, which is a nasal. Now the nasal's easier to administer, but the nasal is a little bit more complicated to get. And most of the time, if you do have a prescription or you go to the pharmacist, this is what they will give you. This is a lot easier to administer, though. You only have to put that up their nose and hit the button at the back. This is a lot easier because, mouth to mouth ain't all, you gotta do all that. But I mean, we still recommend the mouth to mouth because basically what's happening is they don't have any air. So, like, if you breathe air into them, you're putting air back in their body. So we still recommend I recommend you do CPR.
Can I share something?
Yes.
Maple Grove Fire Department has started, it's called hypoxia. The competitiveness that we see when someone comes to after being given Narcan is because they've been oxygen deprived. Mm-hmm. So now the paramedics give oxygen for 2 minutes, and then they give the Narcan. And because they're reoxygenated, they're not as combative.
Right.
So his point is right on, that it's CPR and...
CPR.
Yeah, get some oxygen in them before you revive them.
Because, so that's why I try to educate people. A lot of people don't even know what's actually going on when a person is ODing. They just know they're ODing, and it relates to death. But what's actually going on is their respiratory system is being compromised. They can't breathe. They don't have no air. The air is leaving their body. So it is our job to put air back in them. That'll bring them back. So, like I said, this nasal one right here, though, now the difference, another reason why the nasal is better than this, because these little vials are only 2 milligrams of naloxone, when this spray is 4 milligrams. So actually you're getting a double dose in this one spray than this little bottle. So this spray is more effective. I want to say they have a new nasal spray out. We don't have any of those. And that administers, I want to say, 8 milligrams. So it's even a stronger dose. Now, the one I think that should be in every household is this one right here. This one right here costs a lot of money. You probably never see these. It's probably about $1,200 for this box, and there's only like 3 of them in there. But this is why I believe you should have this one in every household, because a child could save someone's life with this one, and it's the only thing you have to do.
This trainer contains no needle or drug. If you are ready to use, pull off red safety guard. To inject, place black end against outer thigh, then press firmly and hold in place for 5 seconds. 5, 4,
You just shoot yourself.
2, 1. Injection complete.
And that's all you got to do. So this is a trainer.
This trainer may be reused for training purposes.
So when it first came on, it said it contains no needle. So
white outer case.
this is the difference. If you look at this one, it has nothing in it. If you see this one, you can see the naloxone actually in there.
Oh, okay.
So this one doesn't have a needle or anything in it. It's just for training. But what I want you to see is that it actually talks, and it'll talk you through what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So like the AEDs we have at churches, I think every library, every church, every school bus, every classroom should have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least one of these.
But I think a comfort level for people to administer it, if they saw that, they'd be much more comfortable just using, it's
Well,
more
now,
expensive.
I think most people like the nasal one
Yeah.
the best. This is the one that's really good. But the reason why I like that one is because if you didn't know nothing about it, it'll just tell you exactly what to do.
Yeah.
You have to have a prescription to get that one.
Probably more than just a prescription. You probably know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah.
I don't even know how we got
But
to
is this the one you can get over the counter?
This is normally you won't get this one over the counter. Normally you get the nasal one. A lot of times those are the ones that they kind of like give to other organizations.
So you don't have to have a prescription for that.
It's over the counter now.
Yeah.
Over the counter, I've never really seen people get them, like just going and get them. Most of the time you still had to have a prescription. Like you could take it up to Walgreens and be like, I got I guess you can go get a prescription from your doctor. I don't know how it really works. Yes, if you got a medical card, if you ask for it, they're supposed to give it to you.
Now that it's over the counter, you can go to any pharmacy and just say, I want it.
Did they give it to you?
You
Yep.
shouldn't ask questions, right?
I don't think they
No. But what happened for some of them is that they want to know, do you have insurance?
Yeah.
So we can bill your insurance.
I want to say you have to have an insurance card. That's the only way you can get it over there.
So you think about the journey for African Americans with our healthcare system, the Tuskegee Institute.
Yeah.
That so many things have happened where there's a lack of trust in our healthcare system.
Yeah.
And so you're asking people to go to a pharmacy and submit your paperwork so you can get a Narcan. People are going to be apprehensive that they're going to think that I'm a user if I'm getting Narcan.
Right.
So now that it goes to the firehouse, no questions asked. All we ask is that you do 20 minutes of training. Here's your Narcan. Those barriers and those tripwires are no longer there.
So we Twin Cities Recovery Projects, we are a naloxone access point. So if you needed some naloxone, you can come and pick it up at Twin Cities Recovery Projects. A lot of your syringe exchanges, which they do harm reduction. Harm reduction concentrates on the person and not what the person's doing. So basically, like we do harm reduction at Twin Cities Recovery Projects. So we pass out clean needles, we pass out condoms, tampons, anything else you can particularly think of, clean water, you know what I mean? What a lot of people don't understand is it cuts down blood diseases. It cuts down the chance of you get a blood disease getting into your household through somebody, you know what I mean, somebody else out there. Yeah. So we concentrate a lot on a lot of that. So you have a lot of syringe exchanges in the state of Minnesota where people can go, they can get their naloxone, they can get clean syringes, they can get the Sharpies to put their syringes in. You know what I mean? And what it does, what I found out what it does is, because we do a lot of outreach. So we go to a lot of the encampments. And like some of the days we go, we think people are really not responsive. But later on down the line, you'll get somebody to come back to the building and they'll hand you one of our business cards and be like, somebody gave me this on outreach one day and I'm ready to get treatment. So it's like we were just planting the seeds. You know what I mean? And God will give the increase. You know what I mean? So you try to make ourselves prepared, man, and we make ourselves available to our community.
So we've been doing food runs along West Broadway.
Yeah.
And because we feed them, a lot of these kids are estranged from their family and their friends. Some of these kids tell me, you're the only person that talks to us.
Mm-hmm. We get that a lot.
So 20 kids now have been brought to North Memorial, HEMC, and Abbott.
Kids.
Yeah, they're all mainly teenagers, late teens, early 20s, who've been hijacked by opioids. And we can't get them psych beds, and we keep throwing them a lifeline. The officers take them to the ER. There's no psych beds. They're back out on the street. Humpty Dumpty.
So then once again, I hate to say it, but that's kind of like the way the system is designed.
Yeah.
You know, it's designed that.
Health Partners got dinged $180,000 because there's a bill that Senator Wellstone and Senator Kennedy passed. It's called the Mental Health Parity Act. Insurances have to reimburse for mental health equal to any other medical disorder. Health Partners wasn't following the Mental Health Parity Act, the very legacy bill of Senator Wellstone. So if that, as a system, is a problem, that's why these folks can't get access to treatment beds. Mental health, chemical dependency, that's not lucrative in our healthcare system.
Yeah. Well, you saw it next door, Partners
Yeah.
in Recovery. You know those
Yeah,
guys?
I've been over there for meals.
Okay. Yeah. The Thursday night meals.
Yeah,
They've got one coming up every Thursday.
every Thursday.
And they're inpatient.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they are providing something what you're talking about.
But Fairview, Sanford, that merger meeting with the Attorney General, with everybody in the room, I said, when Bethesda becomes a psychiatric hospital, we need dual diagnosis beds. Because many of the people with addiction are self-medicating mental illness. Yeah, so I mean, there's systems issues that really need to be addressed, as well as the foot soldiers getting these guys a lifeline, there's got to be a treatment bed for them at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I got a brother-in-law who's suffering from, well, actually, it started with, what's that, animal tranquilizer.
Got it.
Carpet, no.
No,
Ketamine.
Tues.
It's ketamine.
You talking about that?
Yeah, probably. It's
Something
good. No, it's the animal tranquilizer.
It's ketamine.
Years ago, the kids used to use it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's been basically institutionalized entirely.
Yeah.
As a result. Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, finding a bed is not an easy thing.
And the healthcare disparities for African Americans and Native Americans, those are the two communities that have been heavily impacted by this crisis.
Yeah.
But now it's hitting the kids in Mankato,
That's hitting everywhere.
it's hitting the kids in the suburbs, and now everyone's waking up to this. This has been a reality since 2015 in urban America.
It's been
You know, well, I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
I first encountered
Well, I meant with the fentanyl, the fentanyl
I
chapter.
first encountered it amongst very wealthy people in Cleveland, Ohio.
Mm.
Because my cousin's a wealthy lawyer out there, and in his community, it's the rich kids
Yep.
that were getting into it.
So that's what, especially in Ohio. I'm from Ohio.
Oh, Springfield,
I'm
yeah.
from Springfield. So basically, that is what that's why you see all of a sudden it's a crisis, and now they want to treat it.
Draws more attention.
Well, no, what's the new language? It's
Epidemic.
no, it's not So they treat substance use disorder as a health problem now instead of a moral issue.
Mm.
So now, since it has affected certain communities, like you said, the suburbs,
Yeah.
it's a problem. So now we need to do something
Yeah.
about it. We need to look at it different. We shouldn't lock everybody up now. Whereas when you had your crack epidemic, it was you go to jail, straight to jail, do not pass go. You still got some people that's in jail since the 80s because of some crack that they sold or something. So,
Michelle Alexander has a book called The New Jim Crow. And the school to prison pipeline and those policies and the CIA dumping drugs into LA in the 80s,
so
that was all about putting people in prison, social control.
Man, that was another total agenda. I mean, the war on drugs is about putting people in prison.
Yeah.
And that started with Nixon. So it's been going on since way back then. They have a documentary on Netflix called 13. It talks about our 13th Amendment.
You'd see Boys in the Hood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that father telling his son.
Yeah.
That's a good scene.
So watch that documentary 13. It starts off with Barack Obama and it talks about how the United States is called 13th. 13th. It's going to be a person with an American flag. It's about our 13th Amendment and what it actually says in it. So it starts off with Barack Obama talking about how the United States only makes up 5% of the world's population, but it makes up 25% of the world's population in prison. So how is that possible? So it says the United States has more people in prison than anybody else in the world, and we're supposed to be the land of the free. So it breaks down what the 13th Amendment actually talks about.
There's a whole prison industrial complex where they tried to get contracts so that they're not in the state and county, that they end up being the alternative prison system. And there's a lot of money in that. And so there's politicians in cahoots with that prison industrial complex to get laws passed so you got more people in prison.
So does it come out on the far end? Are organizations that halfway house organizations, are they sort of bottom feeders or something in the system, or what?
So
That's the wraparound. That's
he talked about that towards the end of 13. He
Yeah.
kind of talked about a little bit about it. They really are.
Yeah.
It's all kind of like a money thing.
I mean, they're doing a good thing, but nevertheless, it shouldn't even have to be there.
Right.
We got to get rid of the stigma of mental illness and addiction. The brain is like any other organ in our body. It deserves compassion. It deserves all the same equivalencies that we give to someone who's got cancer. Until we get there, there's a lot of people who are going to die that didn't need to. Sorry, I get to preach and I'm at a church.
They say I got a brother-in-law that's been through all that.
Yep.
He's 60 years old now.
I literally had a guy say to me, well, that problem will take care of itself. I told him the outreach we were doing on Long West Broadway, and he was wishing these people die. That's the kind of mentality that we need to confront.
So I did bring you guys some Narcan.
Yeah. Well, I wish we had more people there. That was a really good presentation.
If I can restock too, so I have more to put when I go along Broadway. Every night that I deliver food, the kids are asking me for Narcan.
Yeah.
And they're mad at me if I run out.
Doesn't matter to you.
What are you doing? You're coming out here, you know we need Narcan. Meanwhile, I got a city council that's taken 10 months to move on the opiate settlement money.
Pharma.
Every municipality is going to get a portion of the settlement money. $365 million over 15 years.
For Minneapolis?
No, every municipality in Minnesota.
Fentanyl testing.
Minnesota got 365.
Yeah. 8 different settlements. So every year there's going to be proportionments that go out to every city, county, and so
And it has to be used specifically for.
we're asking that they focus on harm reduction. But I've seen 2 cities that are considering using it for staffing positions. In the terms of the settlement, it says reasonable administrative costs. Reasonable is like 25%. But if you take half your opiate settlement money to pay for a staffing position, that's not reasonable. So we're holding municipalities accountable. This settlement money is part of the restorative justice for the victims.
You're talking about, when you say we, Twin Cities Crisis Response Team?
Yes, we're advocating policy changes and holding people accountable that when you get your opiate settlement money, it needs to go towards Narcan, test kits, MAT, services, not staffing positions. If you need a staffing position, then you go, you do your budget for the year. You don't take staffing positions out of the settlement money. This goes to harm reduction. That's what the settlements are for.
So my thing, youth ministry, I've been doing it 44 years here in North Minneapolis. Can you tell me anything helpful?
As